Right now, two huge 1,000-bed floating hospitals that are owned by the U.S. Navy, the United States Navy ship Mercy and the United States Navy ship Comfort, are being deployed to help deal with the coronavirus outbreak. These two massive hospital ships were built to treat soldiers injured in war, but they've far more often been used for humanitarian means, and they represent a tradition that might go all the way back to ancient times. The history of hospital ships deserves to be remembered. The exact origin of hospital ships isn't clear, but the ancient navy of the Greek city of Athens had a ship named Therapia, meaning therapy, sometime around 2,600 years ago, which might have been used for medical purposes. In the late 1600s, England's Royal Navy kept two hospital ships at a time that took on 6 sailors from other vessels. These were usually hired merchant ships or older small warships. However, conditions aboard the hospital ships weren't great, and crews complained that they were given even worse food than other ships. An early hospital ship of the U.S. Navy was the USS Intrepid. The ship was originally built by the French, but it had been sold to a place called Tripoli, who had renamed it the Mystico. In 1801, the United States went to war with Tripoli because Tripoli was supporting pirates that had been raiding our ships. One of America's ships, the USS Philadelphia, got stuck on a reef during the war, and the Mystico and other ships captured it. But later that year, another American ship captured the Mystico. The Americans renamed the boat USS Intrepid and used it as a hospital ship for sick and wounded sailors. But the Americans were afraid that Tripoli was going to repair the Philadelphia and use it against the Americans. So they used the Mystico to sneak into the harbor in Tripoli and set fire to the Philadelphia. One famous hospital ship was a ship built in 1801 for the Navy of the United Kingdom called HMS Dreadnought. After it had served in the Navy, in 1827 the Dreadnought was used as a quarantine ship, or a place to house sick people so that they couldn't make other people sick. In 1831 the Dreadnought was turned into a hospital to treat sick or injured sailors. The name was so well known that when they replaced the original ship, they named the new ship Dreadnought. Then in 1870, when they sold that ship and moved to a hospital on land, they named the hospital after Dreadnought. Today, 119 years after the Dreadnought was originally built, the name Dreadnought lives on, as there is a unit of St. Thomas Hospital in London called the Dreadnought Unit, and it still provides special services to sailors and their families. Hospital ships and boats were also used in America when the United States fought the Civil War between the North and South between 1861 and 1865. One famous hospital ship of the U.S. Civil War was the USS Red Rover, a steamship converted to a hospital ship that served people with infectious diseases along the Mississippi River. The boat was innovative for the times and equipped with an operating room, a galley with a separate kitchen for the patients, and a steam boiler for laundry use, as well as even an elevator. The Red Rover admitted over 2,400 patients during the Civil War. Another famous hospital ship from the Civil War was the Star of the West. The very first battle of the war started when troops from the South shot cannons at the Star of the West as it tried to bring supplies to troops from the North. The ship that was part of the start of the war was later captured by the South, who used it as a hospital ship. Hospital ships continued to develop through many wars, and during the Spanish-American War in 1898 even included a state-of-the-art X-ray machine. In 1917, 2 steamships that were used as troop transports by the U.S. Army were transferred to the Navy and became hospital ships. They were renamed USS Mercy and USS Comfort and were outfitted as hospital ships. They were the first U.S. Navy ships to have female nurses. They brought wounded men, including soldiers sick with the flu, from Europe back to the United States. Between the two, they transported 3,880 wounded and sick American troops home from the war in Europe. Also in 1917, the United States started to build its first naval ship, specifically designed as a hospital ship. The ship was named Relief. USS Relief was a large hospital with beds for 550 patients and was one of the most modern hospital ships of its time. The ship served during the Second World War, transporting and treating wounded troops, providing medical supplies to the fleet, and even deploying field hospitals for battle on land. Over the course of the war, Relief evacuated more than 10,000 wounded and sick fighting men, and sailed a distance equivalent of 4 times around the Earth. During the Second World War, the United States operated 44 hospital ships. 29 of those were operated by the Army, and 15 by the Navy. Hospital ships continued to serve after the war. The USS Repose, for example, was a hospital ship that served at the end of the Second World War. It was then recommissioned to treat wounded soldiers for wars in Korea and Vietnam. In the war in Vietnam, it treated over 9,000 battle casualties and 24,000 inpatients. Another hospital ship the United States made for the Second World War was called USS Consolation and was donated to a group called Health Opportunities for People Everywhere, or Project Hope. Renamed the SS Hope, the hospital ship made 11 different voyages to people around the world to provide medical care and supplies and teach new doctors. In 1986, the United States Navy commissioned 2 new hospital ships, the United States naval ships Mercy and Comfort. The ships were converted from huge ships designed to carry oil and are almost as long as an aircraft carrier. Each ship is a fully equipped hospital with 12 operating rooms and 1,000 beds. Mercy and Comfort have served all over the world, not just in wars, but to help people after disasters like hurricanes and earthquakes. Because they are hospital ships, they can't carry guns except to defend themselves. While they are United States Navy ships, the people who operate the ships are civilians, but the doctors and nurses are usually members of the United States military or public health service. They spend much of their time in port with only a few people taking care of the ship, but are able to be ready to be deployed with just 5 days' notice. Recently, the Mercy and the Comfort were activated as part of the United States response to the coronavirus outbreak. The Mercy is in the port of Los Angeles, California, and the Comfort is in the port of New York City, and there they will treat patients so that local hospitals can focus on people who have the coronavirus. In that service, they carry on the long tradition of hospital ships treating people in need.